Okay, so I copied all these onto a sheet, hoping that we'll get through all of these in the time allotted for my video. All right, so let's look at 6. Let's find the x and y intercepts. Let's remember to find x-intercepts, we set f of x to 0. So we're going to put a 0 on that left side in place of the f of x, and we're going to solve this equation. All right, now first, before we can rewrite this as two separate absolute value equations and start solving, we've got to move the 4 that's not in the absolute value. So the absolute value has to be by itself before we can start thinking of this as solving an absolute value equation. So let's move the 4, and we get 4 equals the absolute value of 2x minus 3 now. Now, there are two equations that must be solved. The first one is just to drop the absolute value. And in the second one, we have to make the number that wasn't in the absolute value negative, and then we drop the absolute value. So let's solve both of these linear equations. So now on the left-hand equation, let's add 3 to both sides. And I will get 7 equals 2x. And then let's divide by 2, and I'll just use the draw feature to make that easier. And we get that x is 7/2. Now let's go ahead and solve this one. I'll add 3 on both sides. -4 and 3 gives me -1 equals 2x. And then let's divide out our 2. And we get -1/2. Now remember our actual x-intercepts we want to write as points. So the x is 7/2. We put a 0 in for f of x, or remember f of x is the same thing as y. And then our other one is -1/2, 0. Now let's get the y-intercepts for our function. To get a y-intercept, we're going to put 0 into x. So that's actually the easier thing to do. Let's just put a 0 into our x's. So we'll have the absolute value of 2 times 0 minus 3 minus 4. And let's just work this out. The 2 times 0 is going to go away. So we'll have the absolute value of -3 minus 4. Remember that absolute value always makes things positive. So this is 3 minus 4, or -1. And then let's write that as a point. The y-intercept is actually x value 0, y value -1. All right, so let's go to 7. For the functions f of x equals 2x minus 1, and g of x equals 3x squared minus 2x plus 4, let's find f composed with g, f composed with g of 4, g composed with f, g composed with f of 2, f composed with f, and f composed with f of -1. All right, now we may not get to 8 in this video, but that's okay. We will in the next one if we don't. Okay, so let's start with f composed with g. Okay, so f is first in the notation. I want to go up here to f and put parentheses where its x is. So 2 times parentheses minus 1. I now want to take g and plop g into those parentheses. So I probably didn't make that quite big enough while drawing, but I'll try to fit it in there. 3x squared minus 2x plus 4. And now let's just clean this up. Let's distribute the 2 through the parentheses, and then we'll add any like terms. So we'll have 6x squared minus 4x plus 8 minus 1. And then I can add these two together. So my final answer is 6x squared minus 4x plus 7. Okay, now let's find f composed with g of 4. Since we have f composed with g of x, all we need to do is put a 4 into the x's in our answer. So f composed with g of 4 we'll have 6 times 4 squared minus 4 times 4 plus 7. Now be sure to do your order of operations, so you've got to do the 4 squared first before multiplying it times the 6. So that's 6 times 16 minus, we can go ahead and do the 4 times 4, that's 16 plus 7. And whatever 6 times 6 is, I believe it's 96, but let me just stick it into the calculator. And 6 times 16 is 96, yes. So 96 minus 16 plus 7. And if we add all of that up, we'll end up getting 87. All right, now let's do the other direction. Let's do our g composed with f of x. And let's see if it's going to give me room here. Yeah, I may have to just go back and forth to see it. Okay, so g is first in the notation. We are going to put our x's into our parentheses into the x's of g. So 3 parentheses squared minus 2 parentheses plus 4. Okay, so 3 parentheses squared minus 2 parentheses plus 4. Now I'm just going to double check that I didn't remember anything. There we go, yeah. All right, so now let's drop f, the second one in the notation, into those parentheses. F is 2x minus 1. So 2x minus 1, drop it on in. And now we got to clean all this up. All right, so the ugly part is this. Let's write out that 2x minus 1 squared really means 2x minus 1 times itself, 2x minus 1. Now I'll go ahead and distribute this negative 2, so we'll have negative 4x and positive 2. And then I still have my 4. All right, now let's FOIL out our 2x minus 1s, and then afterwards we'll distribute the 3. So leave that 3 there. 2x times 2x is 4x squared. 2x times minus 1 is minus 2x. Minus 1 times 2x is minus 2x. And minus 1 times minus 1 is plus 1. And I still have all of this. While I'm at it, we'll go ahead and add the 2 and 4 so we don't have to keep copying 2 things. So that's really 6. All right, now let's distribute the 3. So we'll have 12x squared minus 6x minus 6x plus 3 minus 4x plus 6. Now let's add like terms and we'll be done with this thing. All right, so 12x squared has nothing to add to. Let's just bring it down, but we have several x's. Negative 6x and negative 6x is negative 12x, and negative 4x is negative 16x. And then our 3 plus our 6 will give us 9. And there is our final composition function. All right, now let's go back up here because I believe we're going to find a functional value for g composed with f. So let's see. We want to find g composed with f of 2. All right. So now that we've got the answer to g composed with f of x, let's just take a 2 and plug it into that new function. So my final answer for g composed with f was right here. So let's just put our 2 into the x's. And then we'll work this thing out. Order of operations, don't forget, we got to do our 4 squared first. Or rather, our 2 squared first, which is 4. And I'll go ahead and do the 16 times 2, which is 32. And then, let me move on down here. That will give me 48 minus 32 plus 9. And I'm thinking that's 25. Let's see, 48 minus 32 is 16 plus 9 is 25, yeah. All right, now let's go to the next thing, f composed with f. All right, so this one is actually going to be easier because f is the shorter function. So let's notice that f is first in the notation. So let's go up to f and let's put parentheses into its x. So f was 2x minus 1. So I want 2 parentheses minus 1. Well, I'm also going to drop f into this set of parentheses. So I'll drop 2x minus 1 in here. And now let's clean this up. If I distribute the 2, I'll get 4x minus 2. And then I still have the minus 1. And let's add our negative 2 and our negative 1, and we will be done with this, 4x minus 3. Now let's do the very last part of this question, which was to find f composed with f of negative 1. So let's, now that we've got the answer to f composed with f, let's plug a negative 1 inside. So let's plug our negative 1 into our x. So we'll have it right here, 4 times negative 1 minus 3. And that's going to be negative 4 minus 3, which is negative 7. And yeah, I'm at 13 minutes, so I will save number 8 for, is it 8 or 7? For our next video. Yeah, number 8 I'll save for the next video.